The two happy people in this picture are Mr. and Mrs. Clarence Thomas. This is in 1987. Today, and ever since 1991, when President George Herbert Walker Bush, Daddy Bush, Papa Bush, nominated him to the Supreme Court of the United States of America, and upon passing his judicial nomination hearing, despite the scandal caused by the allegations of sexual harassment by Anita Hill, they are now Justice and Mrs. Clarence Thomas. Cool Papa Joe Biden, current president of the United States, was the chairman of the Judiciary Committee that treated Anita Hill like a piece of shit. I know you're wondering, how did Clarence and Ginni, Virginia Ginni, go from meek, mild-mannered Associate Justice and Mrs. Thomas to power players in today's Washington, D.C.? Okay, given the state of current events, we know the ire that American public has with the Supreme Court because of the impending overturning of Roe versus Wade. We also know the conditions surrounding the January 6th committee, and that puts Ginni in the spotlight because it seems that she is knee-deep in the alleged insurrection activity, and it seems that Clarence has made decisions at least one time to hide her participation in these national events. And also there is the question of the people that Ginni represents, the far right causes that she represents, when they have cases before the Supreme Court. It seems that allegedly, Clarence may be voting in allegiance with his wife's beliefs, or at least with her clients. And then in one current case, she was representing someone that was involved in a case before the Supreme Court. Clarence voted in favor of that person or that organization, and Ginni received a $200,000 check for her services. So maybe they getting rich, but is it right? To understand all of this, let us examine Clarence and Virginia separately for a few moments. This is Virginia Ginni Thomas.
You ain't right, Uncle Ricky.
My bad. Yup. This is Virginia Ginni Thomas, wife of Associate Justice to the Supreme Court, Clarence Thomas.
That's better, Uncle Ricky.
Yeah, but you know what? The heifer was kind of cute. Oh shit!
My bad. Moving right along, Virginia Ginni went yard out for the little Cheeto that couldn't.
Virginia Ginni avidly supported Trump throughout his entire presidency. She was so close to the 45th president of the United States that she often went to the White House to either give him advice in person or his chief of staff, Mark Meadows, advice, even up to and including personnel tips on who to hire and fire. It seems that Thomas's support of Trump did not falter even after Joe Biden beat him by 7 million votes in the 2020 election. Ginni Thomas immediately began to support the big lie that the election was stolen from Trump. The January 6th committee is interested in her shenanigans in Arizona and her text messages back and forth with Mark Meadows, and a couple of other things that have not been revealed yet. The question is JOD, the Department of Justice, Merrick Garland, also interested in the wife of Clarence Thomas, the Associate Justice of the Supreme Court? Okay, now we have covered one half of the nefarious, or allegedly nefarious, duo of Clarence and Ginni Thomas. Let us go with the other half. Associate Justice of the United States Supreme Court, Clarence Thomas. This is Associate Justice Clarence Thomas. Clarence Thomas has been on the Supreme Court since 1991 when he was appointed by George Herbert Walker Bush. Clarence Thomas was born on June 23, 1948. He is currently 73 years old. He's from Penn Point, Georgia. Clarence Thomas grew up with his grandparents because his father left him and his mother and his siblings when he was 2 years old. His maternal grandparents helped his mother out by raising the children. That's probably the result. That resulted in Clarence Thomas's one book that he's authored called Grandfather's Son. Clarence Thomas grew up in a Gullah community. He attended an all-black Roman Catholic primary school run by white nuns. Then he went to a boarding school seminary where he graduated as the only African American in his class. He had attended Immaculate Conception where he in his freshman year of college, and then transferred to Holy Cross College in Worcester, Massachusetts. In 1971, Clarence Thomas married Kathy Ambush.
They had one son, Jamal Etienne Thomas.
He is Yum MMEE.
In 1974, Clarence Thomas graduated from Yale Law School, and that began the Yale hookup that eventually got Thomas into the Supreme Court of the United States of America. It appears that Clarence Thomas used his unique position as a conservative black Republican in the 70s and being a Yale alumnus to his advantage from the very beginning. In 1974, Clarence Thomas passed the Missouri State Bar exam. He later went into private practice there. He became a legislative assistant to United States Senator, a Republican, also a Yale graduate, John Danforth, in 1979. He was appointed Assistant Secretary for Civil Rights at the U.S. Department of Education in 1981. In 1982, Republican President Ronald Wilson Reagan appointed Clarence Thomas to be the chairman of the Equal Opportunity Commission, the EEOC, and that was in 1982. Thomas encountered a young female black lawyer by the name of Anita Hill during his tenure at the EEOC. Anita Hill later filed sexual harassment charges against Thomas during his Supreme Court nomination hearing in 19. Daddy Bush probably had a big laugh when he appointed Thomas to the D.C. Appeals Court, appointing a Republican to the D.C. Appeals Court, a black conservative Republican to the D.C. Appeals Court in the 90s when D.C. was universally known as the Chocolate City. I'm pretty sure Bush had a... Daddy Bush probably had a big laugh when he appointed Thomas to the D.C. Appeals Court, appointing a Republican to the D.C. Appeals Court, a black conservative Republican to the D.C. Appeals Court in the 90s, when D.C. was universally known as the Chocolate City. I'm pretty sure Bush had a laugh. Okay, so perhaps you can tell now that Clarence Thomas is a bit strange. It's a bit unique. Let us go a little bit further into Clarence's ascension to the Supreme Court of the United States of America. Okay, let us take a look at brother. No, I can't stretch that term that far for this particular individual. Skin folk don't have to be kinfolk. Anyway, Clarence came up poor, graduated from parochial elementary school for all black kids run by all white nuns. He has gone on through college, gone to Yale Law School, and graduated. Now he's started a family with Kathy Ambush, had one son, Jamal, went on, EOC, something happened, got divorced from Kathy, went on, that was like in 84 and 87, he met his best friend, Virginia Ginni Thomas. Now in 1990 he gets a seat on the appeals court thanks to his fellow alumnus from Yale, the President of the United States, Herbert Walker Bush. And then Clarence Thomas gets his dream handed to him. Thurgood Marshall retires from the Supreme Court for health reasons in 1991. He went on to die in 93 or 94 at Walter Reed Hospital. But anyway, Clarence Thomas gets nominated to the Supreme Court of the United States. Now, Thomas was a dream nomination. You got to consider the social attitudes of the 90s. It was not as advanced as it is now. Well, I'm not going to say it's not as advanced, but everything wasn't an issue. Thomas was black, so that more or less, even though he was a conservative, he was black. He would have been the second black person on the bench of the Supreme Court. So that kind of, took wind out of the NAACP and Southern Christian Leadership and all those cats. They didn't like the fact that he was a conservative, but he was black, so it was short-lived protest, just half-hearted, pushback. Democratic leadership, of course, they were happy. They didn't have to worry about the NAACP, having sit-ins and at the congressional offices, the senatorial offices. So they were happy about that shit. The Republicans, they were ecstatic. They had a black conservative. Eventually, as its time accrued on the bench of the Supreme Court, Thomas, despite the optics, would become known as the most conservative judge on the Supreme Court, especially after Anton Scalia departed this earth. Thank you, Lord. Thank you. But anyway, so you got Uncle Ruckus, Justice Thomas, and his whacked-out right-wing wife. And as we cruise towards Trump losing the 2020 election by 7 million votes to Joe Biden, things get really whacked out because now we have the insurrection, the January 6th attack on the Capitol. And, of course, that had to be investigated. And 8, 9 months later, here we find out after President Trump does not get his claim to executive privilege, that he appealed and had expedited all the way up to the Supreme Court to be heard in front of the Supreme Court. 9 justices. You have a conservative bloc. 3 of them were appointed by Trump during his short one-term presidency. So now you have a quorum of conservative justices on the Supreme Court. You really have only 3 which you could call liberal, and one of those is more of a moderate than a liberal. They're all Democratic justices. 9 justices on the Supreme Court. 8 of them said, Trump, you full of shit. That included 3 of Trump's appointees and the Chief Justice John Roberts, who is considered a conservative but has been known to vote moderate. The only dissenter was, guess who? Associate Justice Clarence motherfucking Thomas. Now, right after that, we discover through Mark Meadows' text messages that had been subpoenaed by the 1-6 committee that Ginni Thomas was texting Mark Meadows concerning the attack on the Capitol. Ginni Thomas was also, we already know, was highly involved in the day-to-day operations of the Trump re-election campaign, and now we find out she is highly involved in the effort for Trump to overturn the results of a fair election in the United States, to overthrow the decision of the people. Biden won by 7 million votes. Biden took the Electoral College. That is the result of the people's voice, their vote. That when they cast their vote, that's their voice. They wanted to take away the people's voice, to put the Mango Madman back into office again, because he supported all their penny ante desires to take America back to the Leave It to Beaver days, when white people were the only thing that mattered. Now, Trump, Clarence has a specific philosophy about black people in America. In a 2019 article for the New Yorker, Corey Robbins wrote about Clarence Thomas's opinions on race. Let's see. Of course, Thomas's opinions were, forged by the way he grew up, the conditions of his education, blase. But Thomas says that his vision that first emerged during his early years, when he was on the left and identified on a profound level with the tenets of black nationalism. Like most ideological commitments, Thomas's politics are selective, but much of the program he embraced in his youth, celebration of black self-sufficiency, support for racial separatism. Let me say that again, and this is a quote. Support for racial separatism remains vital to his beliefs today. Those beliefs are coming closer each term to being enshrined in the law. Clarence Thomas writes an average of 34 opinions a year, more than any other justice. Now you understand why a justice who doesn't even believe in the statement that all men are created equal, that the races have to be, he didn't even say all the races, he said black and white have to be separated in order for black people to have a chance to pull themselves up by their bootstraps to be all that they can be. In other words, Clarence Thomas, an associate justice on the Supreme Court of the United States, that every day he sits on that bench decides how the laws regulate racial conditions in this country, is a racist himself. Oh well, he wouldn't be the first, and he probably won't be the last, but he is unique because he is a black racist married to a white dingbat. And I don't understand, if he's so keen on the races being separate, what does he say every time he looks at a wedding photo from his second wedding? That's just the kind of questions Uncle Ricky asks at Uncle Ricky's house, because, damn it, I just want to know. It's obvious we have a problem. This man has no business sitting on the bench, especially when there are cases involving the organizations and the people that his wife represents being tried in front of the Supreme Court. Thomas used to work for Monsanto, the chemical corporation. He's heard cases involving Monsanto pesticides. He's heard cases involving damage claims. He never ever said that he would recuse himself from a case. Motherfucker sat on the bench for 10 years before he ever asked a question during oral arguments. He's not normal. He's not normal, but yet and still, with all of his opinions, all of the optics, he is the longest seated justice on the Supreme Court of the United States. His opinions are being woven. His wife's thoughts via him are being woven into the laws of this country. We have to listen. We are going to end up living under this maniac's rule. The longer he sits on the bench, the more he gets away with. The more people that think like him that get put on the court, the faster he can move. I said something about lifetime appointments to the Supreme Court. You know, what's wrong with 10-year term? Do all the damage you can do in 10 years and then get the fuck out. Because generations change, the country changed, the needs of the country change, the way the country survived changes, the laws have to change. And if we got motherfuckers thinking in 1958 trying to regulate the laws in 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, we fucked up. It just can't happen. Especially when they far-right extremist assholes like Clarence Thomas married to a right-wing dingbat like Ginni Thomas. Well, that's it for... Oh yeah, Thomas did make a couple firsts. He was the first Supreme Court nominee to lie on or avoid the question of abortion at a Senate hearing. He was also the first Nabisco cookie product to get nominated and approved for the Supreme Court of the United States. You can figure that one out at home. For now, this is Uncle Ricky saying goodbye. God bless, and hope to see you again at the next episode of...
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share Uncle Ricky's House on YouTube.
Who turned the damn lights out?